The Umayyad dynasty stands as one of the most influential and expansive empires in the history of the Islamic world. Emerging in the wake of the Prophet Muhammad's peace and blessing upon him passing and the initial Rashidun Caliphates, the Umayyads transformed the political and cultural landscape of the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. Their story is one of ambition and achievement, but also of challenges and lessons that continue to resonate. The roots of the Umayyad dynasty can be traced to the Quraysh tribe of Mecca. After years of conflict and negotiation, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, a skilled statesman and military leader, ascended as the first Umayyad Caliph in 661 CE. He established the Umayyad capital in Damascus, a city that had long served as a crossroads of civilizations. The choice of Damascus was strategic. It was centrally located, well connected by trade routes, and far enough from the Arabian heartland to signify a new epoch in Islamic governance. Damascus quickly became the heart of Umayyad administration. The city's grand palaces, mosques, and bustling markets reflected the wealth and cosmopolitan nature of the empire. The caliphs invested in infrastructure, building roads, bridges, and aqueducts that linked their sprawling territories. The Umayyad court was a blend of Arab traditions and the sophisticated bureaucratic practices inherited from the Byzantine and Persian empires. This fusion allowed the Umayyads to govern a diverse population that included Arabs, Berbers, Persians, Greeks, and many others. Central to the Umayyad administration was the concept of centralization. The caliphs appointed governors, known as walis, to oversee the provinces. These governors were responsible for collecting taxes, maintaining order, and implementing the caliph's directives. The system was hierarchical, with clear lines of authority reaching back to Damascus. Arabic was made the official language of administration, replacing Greek and Persian in many regions. This linguistic unification fostered a sense of shared identity across the empire, even as local customs persisted. The Umayyads also reformed the coinage system, introducing gold and silver dinars inscribed with Islamic motifs and Arabic script. This not only facilitated trade but also reinforced the caliphate's legitimacy. The postal system, inspired by earlier empires, allowed for rapid communication between the capital and distant provinces. These administrative innovations laid the foundation for effective governance, even as the empire stretched from the Atlantic coast of North Africa to the borders of India. Expansion was a hallmark of Umayyad rule. Driven by both religious zeal and pragmatic considerations, the caliphs embarked on ambitious military campaigns. In North Africa, Arab armies swept across the Mediterranean coast, ultimately reaching the shores of the Atlantic. The Berbers, initially resistant, were gradually integrated into the Islamic fold, and many became instrumental in further conquests. Perhaps the most dramatic episode of Umayyad expansion occurred in the west, where in 711 CE, Muslim forces crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and entered the Iberian Peninsula. Led by Tariq ibn Ziyad, this campaign resulted in the rapid collapse of the Visigothic kingdom and the establishment of al-Andalus. Cities like Córdoba, Seville, and Toledo flourished under Umayyad rule, becoming centers of learning and culture. In the east, the Umayyads pressed into Central Asia, overcoming the Sogdians and establishing control over key trade routes along the Silk Road. The conquest of Sindh in present-day Pakistan opened new horizons for Islam in the Indian subcontinent. These expansions were not merely military. They were also accompanied by waves of migration, settlement, and cultural exchange. Despite their achievements, the Umayyads faced significant challenges. The empire's rapid growth strained administrative capacities and created tensions between the Arab elite and the newly converted non-Arab populations, known as Mawali. The Umayyads tended to favor Arabs in positions of power, which led to resentment and unrest among other groups. Religious legitimacy was another issue. The Umayyads were criticized by some for their secular approach to rule and for their lavish lifestyles, which contrasted with the austere practices of earlier caliphs. The descendants of the Prophet, particularly the Shia, viewed the Umayyads as usurpers. This discontent occasionally erupted into open rebellion, most notably in the tragic events of Karbala. The lessons of the Umayyad dynasty are manifold. One of the most important is the necessity of balancing central authority with local autonomy. The Umayyads succeeded in creating a unified empire, but their reliance on Arab elites and their relative neglect of non-Arab populations sowed seeds of division. The later Abbasid revolution, which overthrew the Umayyads in 750 CE, was fueled in part by these grievances. Another lesson lies in the management of diversity. The Umayyad Empire was a mosaic of languages, cultures, and religions. The policy of Arabicization helped create a common administrative framework, but true integration required more than just language. The most successful periods of Umayyad rule were those in which local customs and traditions were respected and accommodated. The Umayyads also demonstrated the importance of infrastructure and communication. Their investment in roads, coins, and postal networks enabled them to govern effectively over vast distances. These innovations would influence subsequent Islamic dynasties and contribute to the flourishing of trade and scholarship. Culturally, the Umayyads are remembered for their patronage of the arts and architecture. The great mosque of Damascus, with its soaring minarets and intricate mosaics, remains a testament to their vision. In al-Andalus, Umayyad rule laid the groundwork for a golden age of science, philosophy, and literature. Yet the Umayyads' fall also serves as a cautionary tale. The concentration of power, resistance to reform, and failure to address social inequalities ultimately undermined their authority. The Abbasids, who succeeded them, learned from these mistakes, embracing a more inclusive approach and relocating the capital to Baghdad, closer to the Persian heartlands. In the end, the legacy of the Umayyad dynasty endures in many forms. Their administrative innovations shaped the Islamic world for centuries. Their expansion spread Islam to new lands and peoples. Their cultural achievements enriched the heritage of humanity. And their challenges remind us that effective leadership requires adaptability, empathy, and a willingness to embrace change. From the bustling streets of Damascus to the sunlit courtyards of Cordoba, the story of the Umayyads is one of ambition and transformation. It is a story that continues to inspire, offering lessons not only for historians but for anyone seeking to understand the complexities of governance, culture, and human society.